Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money channel. This afternoon's video is going to be about why Invisible will make the 2020s payments innovation roar. And so what is this concept of invisibility? Well, it may seem a little abstract right now, but guys, I'm going to get into this article. I'm going to read you a little bit of this, and I hope you'll be able to put the connections together and understand why Ripple will make waves in 2020, okay? Let's forget about all the other reasons that we talk about on this channel. You know, all those reasons why XRP is better than Bitcoin for so many reasons. And let's focus on our culture, where we've come, where we're going, and in particular, that next generation that will really influence this in the coming decades. So this is an article by Karen Webster from payments.com. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I am going to read parts of this article. So this is about the idea of invisibility with regards to commerce and why it's become so popular. So most of what drives the headlines and banter about the future of payments plays off what people can see right in front of their eyes. The devices and apps that people use or don't use today, the products they buy or don't buy today, the places where they shop or don't shop today, the methods they use or don't use to pay, and how all of that will or won't change over time. That's an obvious but very small part of the story. The most transformative innovations in payments and commerce over the last decade are mostly the result of innovators making what was once visible invisible. So guys, this idea of payments, stores, merchants, brands, issuers, even card networks. Those innovations did more than just leverage digital and connected devices to make it easier for consumers and businesses to interact and to effectively blend the online and offline worlds. They influenced those choices by changing the consumer's path to purchase and payment. Sometimes those innovations disrupted old models and players. Other times they made them better and more efficient, but they always ended up rewarding the boundaries that once neatly defined how people and businesses found each other and did business. Making the visible invisible was the powerful source of those shifts. And so guys, I'm going to give you a few examples here as Karen Webster, there's a Karen Webster, Karen Webster mentions down here in her article. So who doesn't know the Uber story by now? In 2009, the Uber app introduced customers to a whole new way of getting transportation and a way for black car drivers with the capacity to serve them. Uber removed the uncertainty of getting a taxi and the planning required to book a ride by making reliable, high quality, and trackable car service available on demand. Yet one of its most transformative innovations was making payment at the end of a ride a non-event. In 2009, Uber made payments disappear. Like many of Uber's customers, I registered a card way back when, and probably like most people, have never changed it since. Like most people, I don't even think about the card brand, the network, or my issuer when I'm getting out of the car at the end of the ride. I just take for granted that it all works, and I'm on to the next thing. Making friction invisible, and guys, this is a key point here. Making friction invisible by making payments invisible was one of the catalysts for Uber's success and why its payments remain one of its core competencies. So guys, this idea, remember when we were always hailing cabs? Uber didn't exist. A life before Uber. Many cab companies I know here in Toronto, a lot of those cabbies don't want anything to do with your credit card. They want cash. And so there's the hassle. There's always the idea of paying. There's always the idea of, well, how much should I give them for a tip? Am I being too cheap? Am I being too generous? Not only did Uber make the idea of hailing a car seamless, they also made, and this is what this article is pointing out, they also made the end payment a non-event, as Karen Webster puts it. Okay, the invisibility of the payment at the end. She gives another example with Square. In 2009, Square introduced a white Square dongle that turned a smartphone into a point-of-sale terminal, making it possible for consumers to pay micro merchants using the cards customers had in their wallets. Yet Square's real innovation was making payments invisible for micro merchants, enabling them to grow their businesses and move away from cash-only purchases. Square did this by acting as a merchant of record and enabling payments acceptance, and over time scaling that model to larger and larger businesses. So guys, again, making payments invisible for micro merchants, thus being able to change the landscape and the path forward for current small business owners and future small business owners, enabling them to grow their business like they wouldn't have been able to do maybe 10 or 15 years before that. So this article continues. They give an example of Starbucks here. Guys, I'm not going to read the whole article. I do link everything in the description, though, if you want to read further. But the real point I'm trying to make here is one of invisible payments, and that is exactly what Ripple is set out to do. Now, why is it important for Ripple? Just think about this for a second, okay? These innovations came out at a time when millennials were coming into their own. And the reason I point out millennials is because they are the first generation to really kind of want and crave and almost have this incessant, visceral need for immediacy. I'm just going to bring up this article here, The Cult of Immediacy. I found this online. Okay, I'm just going to read a little bit here. Millennials, this is a quote. Millennials are growing up with an understanding that you can click and find, click and know, click and buy. And that has to change your mentality and mindset as a consumer. Okay, next quote here. Same-day delivery doesn't have to be a luxury. It's a convenience that everyone should be able to enjoy, and that means across lots of stores, across lots of cities, and across lots of products. We're eagerly starting to move forward on some of our next steps for expansion. That last one was from Tom Fallows, Director of Project Management for Google Shopping Express from March 2014. Now guys, what does this tell you? Millennials are a very unique generation because they are the first generation to have grown up with the internet, a piece of technology that has ushered in a culture of immediacy. So I'm just going to read this first paragraph because it really does sum up a lot of the points I wanted to talk about here. So in a society where time has become scarce, consumers are no longer willing to wait. Today, brands and retailers have no choice but to adapt to a new need for immediacy, and so they have developed new solutions such as same-day delivery, real-time updates, no shipping delays, and one-click information access, among others. According to an ISA study, 79% of French people consider a good delivery to be one day that is done in the same day. The urge to share, the desire to get anything anywhere at any time, and the instinct to instantly find information are consumer shifts that mobile devices have clearly intensified. Texting, multimedia messaging, and mobile web browsers have dramatically whetted the collective appetite for getting what we want, when we want it, and when we want it is essentially right this second. Okay, the culture of the everywhere, anytime access to the internet is offering ever more opportunities for consumers to get what they desire easily, rapidly, and seamlessly. So guys, going back to this whole idea of invisible payments, they kind of go hand in hand, right? The culture of immediacy and invisible payments. So you think to yourself, well, Ripple, they're really focusing on remittances. They're focusing on the idea that, companies can pay people all around the world kind of seamlessly without a hitch because we can utilize XRP as that bridge cryptocurrency to exchange fiat to other fiat anywhere around the world in fractions of seconds at a fraction of the cost of what it currently costs to send those same payments today. So how is this important to millennials? How is this important for the future? Well, guys, think about how old millennials are today. They're in their 20s, maybe early to mid 30s. Okay, maybe just starting to get jobs in the workforce after finishing university or any kind of post-secondary education. Maybe been in the workforce for about a decade now already. And so what does Ripple bring to the table? Well, they are looking to change payments over the coming decades, the 2020s, the 2030s, and beyond. Where will that bring millennials? Well, it will bring them into their 40s and 50s and 60s. And why is this so important? It's because millennials will one day be that generation in charge. CEOs of companies, the generation making those financial decisions at big companies when business deals are going down. And so I feel like this is all kind of fitting in seamlessly, right? We are almost presetting the business world for 10, 20, 30 years from now so that millennials will have the same immediacy that they've always been used to from their childhood into their teenage years and now into their 20s. The CFOs and accountants of the coming decades will be the millennial generation. They will be the ones demanding faster service, cheaper service, and more importantly, instant service. Ripple is that company that will be fulfilling the demands for the millennial generation in the decades to come. I can now see a clear, bigger picture for some of the reasons why this is going to be very important in the coming decades, and I hope you can see it too. Anyways, guys, that's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.